I remember the last time you sat in that chair and we asked you if we were about to strike Iran. I believe your answer was yes, and of course we did. How about now?
Well, I think we're going to do it again.
Yeah.
I think just considering the politics of it all, I think President Trump has already said that he is painted into a corner, more or less, by saying we're locked and loaded and you should come out onto the streets. And if we don't do it, it's sort of it raises the strategic word of the United States. So I think he has to do it. He wants to be strength. That's his brand, and I think that's the way he's going to go.
Well, so what does he do differently from the strike we saw last June, where we targeted the nuclear facilities? And he, of course, argues we completely eliminated Iran's capacity to produce a nuclear weapon. Wouldn't a second strike suggest that that was not, in fact, true?
Well, I do think that they've probably found additional targets on the militarization side of the nuclear weapons program. I think he's going to hit, like Israel wants to do, ballistic missile sites, because they've been able to reconstitute those at a greater rate than anyone anticipated.
So you think Netanyahu convinced him of that this week? Or
I do, and I think our intel is probably saying as much. But I do think that he still has to connect it somehow back to the protesters. So maybe I still believe he's going to hit like the IRGC and the Besiege, who are the thugs on the back of motorcycles who were beating people with baseball bats. I still think he has to connect it back to that somehow. So I would look for some, let's call them instruments of regime repression, to take a shot.
So this is less about going after large military targets and more about going after individuals, the way Israel has perfected. Is that your thought?
Well, I think the Israelis, I do believe that they will participate in this, and I think they're really into decapitation strikes.
Yes, okay.
And so maybe we'll join as well if you think about the top level of the regime.
Yep.
The Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. I think generally, though, and President Trump has shifted over to ballistic missiles because he wants something that's going to be measurable. Mm-hmm. If he just hits sites related to the protests and people say, well, you didn't achieve regime change, it might be seen as a failure. So it feels like he's broadening the scope of what's possible so that he can claim success later.
Mm-hmm. Well, as we consider broadening the scope of that, perhaps he does seem to also be narrowing his focus, at least when we think of the different theaters in the world, to areas like the Middle East, arguably the Caribbean as well, with Venezuela, and maybe leaving Europe in question as to where exactly the U.S. stands on issues pertaining to our European allies. And that's happening as the Munich Security Conference is underway right now. Bloomberg actually was able to speak with Democratic Senator Alyssa Slotkin on the sidelines of that conference about what message she and other Democrats are bringing compared to the ones that the Trump administration may be sending.
A lot of us who are here, certainly from the Senate and the House, to send the message that not everyone agrees with the approach that this president is taking, right? That my president is taking, which is kick your allies in the teeth and cozy up to your adversaries. It's the opposite of what many of us were taught and how we lived.
My question, Michael, is how you think that message is received when the Democrats are the minority party right now. There's at least 3 more years until something is going to change in that regard.
Yeah, I think it gives the Europeans a little hope, but I still think they're fundamentally considering that the United States may be going a different direction. I don't think we'll ever be back to the place that we were where we completely subsidized European security. By the way, I was okay with it because it allowed us to call the shots. But such as things are these days, fiscally and given the rise of China, I do think we have to give way a little bit to the Europeans leading the show. I think it was probably okay for the president early in his term to say to Europe, you've got to get to 5%. We can't always be there. But I would quit beating them up badly about Greenland and civilizational suicide and the other things I keep hearing about.
I don't mean to be too cute here in the age of Trump, but what happened to politics ending at the water's edge? You've got a codel of Democratic senators going overseas to talk about the United States president essentially as a pariah with the message, just hang on 3 more years?
It's just another one of the norms and traditions of American politics that has gone by the wayside.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Trump, of course, has just punctuated the age. We're in the age of populism with polarization, and I think this is just par for the course of where we've been for some time.
Wow.
Well, and of course, when we consider the message from the Trump administration, it was a message delivered in striking fashion by Vice President J.D. Vance at the Munich Security Conference last year.
Right.
It's the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, who's going to be speaking this time around. Do you expect his message to be materially different? What do you think we'll see from Rubio?
So I do. I don't think you'll see Rubio primarily focus on free speech in Europe. I think he will talk more about NATO. I think he'll talk more about some of the things that do bind us together. I think he'll talk a lot about Ukraine as well. I don't think he'll necessarily deviate so much from what the president's words are, but I think he's going to say the president wants to reach peace in Ukraine. We do have sanctions on the Russians, even though the Europeans will say we should do more, and we should. They'll say it's great that the Europeans are stepping up with the defense industrial base rehabilitation and, of course, the arms that they're already shipping. But the United States has more to do, and to the degree that Rubio, even if it's behind doors, can assure people that the president's not completely turning his back on Ukraine, I think that'll be reassuring for the Europeans.
So is the Munich Security Conference now the staging ground for presidential candidates?
I think so. I mean, with
This
AOC
is the 2028 lineup there now.
Oh, I think everybody knows this is the premier
Newsom is
foreign
there.
policy event of the year. And so I think everybody is over there, and they want to see different people. They want to try to get some international affairs experience, and this is the spot to do it. And I've been to this conference a half dozen times. The Europeans love to see the Americans come, and we're there in force.